Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast, where today we're going to go over UFC Vegas 35, Chikadze versus Barboza. First and foremost, I do apologize for the take last week. We're having some difficulties recorded the whole show, and then just my computer did not want to work, so I wasn't able to put it out. I did put picks out. And the picks did all right. They went 3 for 6, but we're better than that. We tried to put 3 locks instead of 2. There was one that I just got convinced that I had a change of heart, and I went, I'm going to add him as a lock. And of course, he didn't hit with Saldana. So I do apologize that we're going to stick back to our 2 dogs, 2 locks, and 2 totals we like. Otherwise, these allergies are whooping my ass, so I am going to fly through this because I just feel absolutely terrible. Too much pollen going on right now. So we're going to get through this card. I owe you guys, so we're going to get through it. We're going to get some money. I feel really, really confident about this card, in all honesty. And not only did I feel good about it, again, my favorite people to listen to are Clint from the Die Hard MMA podcast with Pub Sports. And I also love the Dogger Pass podcast with Paul Shaughnessy and Cody Safdie. And Cody went through his weekly PRP that I listened to and had the exact same picks I had. So that was just another boast of confidence. Like, I am ready for this card. A lot of favorites, so it's kind of hard not to feel confident. A lot of like minus 500 favorites is getting a little out of control. It's kind of tougher to bet. But we are going to find some good ones and some good value here. Speaking of which, again, all of the fights, the official picks are posted on Saturday after the weigh-ins at Stats and Stacks podcast over on Twitter, over on Instagram. I will go ahead and put the links over in the description. That way it's easier for you guys to just click on and follow because, again, we post them every Saturday morning. So at that juncture, I'm not going to waste a second of your time. That's all the busy work we had to get through. I apologize for the amount of times I'm probably going to wipe my nose, as these allergies are ridiculous, but hey, we'll start and we'll get it ready. Looking at the first fight of the night, in all honesty, isn't going to be too much to talk about anyway. So let's go ahead. We'll pull this up and we'll get started. A lot of these fights, so many favorites that it's not going to take long to go over. So we'll start with, speaking of which, the very first fight of the night, probably going to be one of my biggest locks of the night. We have Mana Martinez going up against Guido Canati. Guido a plus 225 dog, Mana minus 295. Over 1.5 is minus 125. Under 1.5 is minus 105, and they're giving us a gift here just because they are lighter weights. Otherwise, if this was a light heavyweight or a heavyweight fight, that under would be steamed a lot more, mainly because of this man right here, Mana Martinez, one of the best kept secrets in the UFC. I love this guy. He's yet to actually have a fight in the UFC. This is his debut, unless you're counting the Contender Series loss to Draco Rodriguez. If they run that back, I really doubt that happens again. This dude has 8 wins, 2 losses. Dude has that submission loss to Draco, as aforementioned. Then he's a split decision loss in the second ever career fight as a professional. Otherwise, his 8 wins, all by knockout. The crazy thing is, it's not like he's just a can crusher, just beating people that are 0-20 and such. He has a win over Ricky Tercios, which we'll talk about later on, who's in the Ultimate Fighter finale. Jose Johnson is legit. He knocked him out in 30 seconds. Like, he has some credible wins on his record. So he's not just going out there and starching cans. The only concern I have with him right now is the fact that he was supposed to fight Jesse Strader and Jesse pulled out. Understandable. So he got replaced with Trevin Jones, and he was going to fight Trevin Jones last week, and Mana pulled out. And now he's fighting a week later. I don't know why he got pulled out. It's still a mystery. I've done research and no one's giving me answers. So I don't know if the UFC wanted to give him an easier fight than Trevin Jones. I don't know if it was like a COVID protocol with one of his cornermen. I don't know what the deal was. I don't like the unknown factor. But the good news is I do know Guido Canetti, and he is not good. His striking's okay. His jiu-jitsu game is okay. His record is not okay, 8-5, and there's a reason he's 8-5. He's not really great at anything. And again, I can't even say he's good striking. I can't say he's good on the ground. He's just okay, incredible enough to make it to the UFC, but the dude's 41 years old. And I know that he has wins where they really wanted him to lose, like Diego Rivas. They were setting him up. He was supposed to lose. Hugo Vienna, he was supposed to lose, but he keeps pulling off these crazy wins. Problem being it that's these guys aren't even in the UFC anymore. And his losses, I mean, that Dana loss was bad because that's a Mongolian wrestler. He shouldn't be getting knocked out in 3 minutes by him. Marlon Vera, excusable. And then Kung Ho Kang, I also don't think is that great. I think he's kind of just a generalist as well. He got choked out in the first round. I don't like this at all. Even Guido's losses, you're looking at it. He has a knockout loss, a submission loss, a submission loss, a submission loss, a knockout loss. Like he doesn't just go to the decision. He gets finished. And Mana is pretty good on the ground. He's sneaky good on the ground. In all honesty, his wrestling, his takedown defense does leave a little bit be desired. But the main thing with Mana is his power, man. It's just we don't know anything about his cardio because his fights are ending so quickly. They're all ending in the first and second round, so we have no idea. But I mean, it's bantamweight. There's not generally a lot of people that gas that weight class. Someone that could gas that weight class is Guido because the dude's 41 years old. His chin is just leaving him. He's just too old. He can be backed up, which is terrible against someone like Mana who's going to come in and pressure you and try to put you out. So, I mean, at this juncture, this is probably one of the biggest locks of the night. I will take Mana inside the distance, and I will do so willingly and effectively, or I will use him as an anchor of a parlay piece, probably both. I'm very confident he wins, and the bet is going to be him as well. Probably him inside the distance or as a anchor on my parlay. Next fight of the night, we have Jamal Emmers at a minus 155 favorite going up against Pat Sabatini at plus 125. The over 2.5 is minus 232. Under 2.5 is plus 182. We'll start with Jamal Emmers. I like Jamal Emmers a lot. I think he has all the talent in the world. He has a good wrestling pedigree. He's pretty good on the ground. He has really good striking. He slows a little bit. I'll give him that. But it's because he has a lot of high volume. I like Jamal Emmers a lot. I think Jamal Emmers, if he wasn't 32, say he was like 26 or something, and he had room to grow, I would say this dude could be a contender, a top 5 top 10 guys. Bantamweight's tough. He could be a top 10 guy in the division. The fact that he's 32, we've probably seen the best of Jamal, or he's in his prime currently. So I'd say even right now, he could be like a top 15 guy in all honesty. He doesn't have a weakness anywhere. He's very, very good. I guess his only weakness would be his IQ. We saw it going up against Giga Jikadze. I mean, we all know Giga is just a striker. Emmers got 2 takedowns and got them pretty easily, but he did that in the 3rd round and it was too late. I don't understand why he didn't just take him down and dominate the fight to begin with the first 2 rounds, why he just sat there in front of him. I have no idea. So his fight IQ is the only question mark I have. And in all honesty, his opponent, Pat Sabatini, the fight IQ is probably his biggest strength. He's a pretty good wrestler. He's really good on the ground, very good on the ground. He doesn't like to get hit. I don't like that because Jamal has really good stand-up. It's just whenever you touch this dude, he kind of backs up and flinches and just runs away, in all honesty. But the thing I like about him as a betting perspective is that he doesn't care if he's boring. I mean, you look at the win against Tristan Connolly, he went out there and it was position over submission. He didn't try to strike. He didn't even go for submissions. He just wanted to hold Connolly down and be safe. And if you're willing to do that in your UFC debut when all the eyes are on you and you're trying to excite the fans, if you're willing to go out there and be boring, honestly, it's the type of guy I want to bet on. I like betting on people that fight for your money, that fight the entire 15 minutes. And I like the people that don't care if the appropriate approach is going to be boring and follow through with the game plan. Because I'm all about winning money. I'm not about getting a finish or the excitement. That just adds to the fuel. But at the same time, if you know your way to win and you're willing to execute it, no matter what the fans are saying, I love that. And that's someone I want to back. When it comes to the striking, definitely advantage Emmers, not even close. It's a significant advantage. When it comes to the wrestling, I will say it's kind of even. I kind of have it. I, I see Emmers offensive wrestling. No one's really shooting on him. So, yeah, he has 100% takedown defense, but no one's shot a takedown. So, how do you really know? And then the jiu-jitsu game, Emmers is good, but Sabatini, I think, is better. So I'll give him the edge there. So if you're telling me the three facets of the fight they're just overall tied, I will take the guy that has the higher fight IQ with even money on his name. So in all honesty, Emmers is probably the more well-rounded guy. So that would be my pick to win the fight. But if you're going to bet it, I have to go dog or pass because Pat does not care if it's exciting or not. All he wants to do is get the win, GSP style. So give me Pat, in all honesty, if I'm going to bet this fight. And not a lot of dogs I like here. So I might end up with a small little, it's plus 125. It's nothing crazy, like $5 or $10 on Pat just to see. All right. And then next fight of the night is an interesting one. We originally had Tracy Cortez going up against JJ Aldridge. Now we have JJ Aldridge going up against Vanessa Demopoulos. We have JJ as a minus 385 favorite. Hate that line. Vanessa come back at plus 280. Over 2.5 is minus 327. Over or under 2.5 is plus 257. We'll start with JJ. I like JJ. I think she's okay. She's a main training partner for Doug Rose, so you can't get any better in the room at that juncture. Her wrestling's pretty good. I wouldn't say good, or I wouldn't say okay. It's like somewhere in the middle. It's decent. She's extremely hittable. That's not good. The good thing is she pressures you. She is a pressure fighter, gets in your face, whether she's, dirty boxing or wrestling you. She's always in your face. But that constant pressure does get her hit quite often. The good news is she's fighting Vanessa Demopoulos, who's not the greatest striker in the world. In fact, isn't really a good striker at all. She's not a good wrestler at all. She in all of her fights, I saw fights against Cheyenne Bays. I saw fights up against what is her name? Loopy. She also had fights. What was her other loss? Corey McKenna. So I mean, all of her losses are to people in the UFC. Even her amateur career, questionable. She got knocked up by Caitlin Chikadze, and Caitlin is great. We know Caitlin's great, but we know that she has zero power. So the fact that she actually lost by knockout is a little concerning. It was an amateur fight. It was in 2013, so I'll cut her some slack, but she doesn't fight too often. She's not good. Her jiu-jitsu game is pretty good. I'll give her that. That's where she excels. And I don't know if she just has poor takedown defense or if she prefers not to get hit and then just go to the ground and turn it into a grappling match. So in all honesty, JJ has a huge reach advantage. Vanessa has little T-Rex arms. I think she has the shortest reach in the UFC. And this fight's at flyweight. And JJ's been at flyweight for a while. Vanessa is a strawweight. So she's already getting bullied by 115-pound girls. Now she's going up a weight class. So that does not seem good for her. I could see JJ. The thing is, JJ doesn't have a lot of power, but Caitlin knocked her out. So in all honesty, with her jiu-jitsu being so good, I could also see JJ just naturally being the bigger girl and pushing her over and just instinctively going to her wrestling that she likes to do. If she does, this has armbar from guard screamed all over it. And if not armbar from guard, I could see her just overpowering her. And, if she gets in the mount, it's game over. So, I mean, at that juncture, I can't trust JJ at minus 385 just because she likes to wrestle. And if she wrestles and she gets armbarred, I'm going to be so pissed. I'm looking at it here. And if you went dog or pass, I mean, Vanessa as a dog is plus 280. The under where you're covering both sides is 257, so plus 260. I'd rather just take the under. It sounds really weird. Neither one of these girls are finishers, but I mean, she can snatch up a submission pretty quickly. And Vanessa and JJ's so much bigger and stronger. Training with Doug Rose, she could potentially knock her out and/or ground and pound her. Heck, even submit her. So just straight overpower the girl. So the pick is JJ. The bet is either just going for broke and trying to hit that under, or just passing in general, which is probably the smarter thing to do. Next fight of the night's a weird one. We have Dustin Jacoby against Darian Stewart. Jacoby at minus 185, Darren Stewart at plus 145. Over 2.5 is minus 162. Under 2.5 is plus 132. We'll start with Jacoby. I don't like Jacoby at all. I think he's a little overrated. I think he's not long for the UFC. He has really good striking. We know that he was in Glory MMA, and he was in Glory and just phenomenal kickboxing, and it does look good in all honesty. He has decent volume in that sense. His wrestling is not good, but he does have a good get up game. He doesn't try to, he's one of these guys that just pop right back up. And it tires out the other person trying to hold him down. He does not accept bottom position whatsoever. If you get him down, his main objective, even if he has to get up, you give up his back. He is determined to get up. He doesn't have a lot of power. I mean, looking at his wins, decisions, and yeah, he knocked out Justin Ledet, but I can knock out Justin Ledet. It's not that hard. Ty Flores, decision. Cody East, decision. Like, he's not a big power guy. So, I mean, at that juncture, he could even fight off his back leg in case Stewart wanted the pressure. His cardio seems to check out. It used to be an issue, but his last few fights, he's looked really good against Ian Kutalaba. He got 10-8 in the first round and then came back with, I mean, Ian gassed out, so it was a little easier, but even the fight before that Grisham loss, I actually thought Grisham won, but Jacoby made it real greasy because he had a lot of energy the latter two rounds and made them a lot closer than they should have been. When you look at the opposite side with Darren Stewart, he's someone where I don't think cardio is a major issue. He does slow down a little, but there's a difference between slowing down and gassing out. His wins in the UFC are a little bit of an issue. I know he has a win over Deron Winn, and that's a split decision win, and Deron Winn is not the best fighter in the world, nor is he a true middleweight. He also has a win over Charles Byrd, who has since been cut from the UFC. I don't know if he has any other UFC wins. Who has Eric Spicely, who definitely has been cut by the UFC, and Bavon Lewis, who has been cut by the UFC. So he has wins over people that are no longer in the UFC. And Deron Winn, who was, if he didn't win his last fight, was going to get cut by the UFC. He has losses to Bartos where he got grounded out. That's not going to be an issue at all. Oh, he beat Maki Patola, who was also cut from the UFC. So losing a split to Kevin Holland is fine. Kevin Holland is very overrated, but he's not that bad. He's not the worst fighter in the world. So a split there. And that closest fight, I thought Darren won personally. But it is what it is. It was too close, so that loss isn't too bad. The Eric Anders loss is... Eric Anders isn't the worst fighter in the world, but again, he's that middling tier, and he got dominated both times. The thing that he has going for him is that he's durable. Even Edmund Shabazian is a finisher. That was a split decision, and I mean, he didn't get finished there. He's very, very durable. I know he got knocked out by Eric Anders and ended up being a DQ, so he got real lucky there because he wasn't going to get knocked out. But other than that hiccup, he's never been knocked out. So with him never being knocked out, I was really about to just push for the over here. I was very confident in the over. But Stewart gave a really weird interview where he said that he's sick of going to the judges in these split decisions and he never wants to go to a judge's decision again. So I don't know if that means he's going to come out and just bull rush Jacoby. And also, this fight is at 205, and Stewart's generally a middleweight. I know Jacoby used to fight at middleweight, so it's at least he's fighting someone else that's not like too much bigger than him. But if he's going to come out and pressure, I don't know how this fight looks. He's generally pretty durable, but so is Jacoby. Jacoby's not going out and get knocked out easily. So if I had to bet, the pick is going to be Dustin because it is going to be. I mean, Stewart's not a wrestler. I know he tries to wrestle a little bit now, but even if he were to take down Jacoby's get up game is good. He would just tire himself out. And if he's going to stand with Jacoby, I do think Jacoby is the better striker. So neither one can do anything in the jiu-jitsu world. So at that juncture, the two things that Jacoby's better stand up, and if Stewart tries to wrestle, he's just going to gas himself out. So I will choose Jacoby. The bet's also going to be Dustin as well. I was looking at the over. I know Jacoby's getting a lot of love right now, and some books even have him at minus 200. So if he's over minus 200, don't bet him. I would just bet the over. And if he's at minus 200 or under, I would just bet Jacoby straight up. So it depends on what book you're using. All right. And the next fight of the night is one I really have my eye on. We have Smiling Sam Alvey at a plus 105 dog going up against Wellington Turman at minus 130. Over 2.5 is minus 110. Under 2.5 is minus 120. We will start with Wellington Turman. I'm not too certain why this isn't a pick 'em and or why he isn't the dog. I mean, right now, his jiu-jitsu is really good. I know people think it's a little overrated. I think it's really good, in all honesty, just from what I see. He is, a lot of these guys are position over submission. This dude is the complete opposite. He's going for the finish. He'll give up position just to go for the finish. But he's generally better on the ground than most people, so it's perfectly fine for him to do. His wrestling's pretty good. I mean, his accuracy in the UFC is like 20%, but he's very, very persistent. Especially the last fight, I thought he looked good taking down Bruno Silva personally. It said that he had a lot of failed takedowns, but when you really look at it, a lot of them were just chain wrestling, so I didn't really consider it. He chain wrestles a lot, so I don't really consider a lot of his failed takedowns. I don't agree with the stat, in all honesty. His numbers are a little higher than what the UFC stats are telling you. His striking, questionable. All he does is pressure forward, but the striking isn't really there. He's very, very hittable. He does go forward, but he has zero head movement. And then there's the big elephant in the room, his chin. I mean, he got knocked out by Andrew Sanchez, who is not known for his power whatsoever. And he got knocked out in the first round. He got knocked out by Bruno Silva. He is known for his power, but again, all it took was one good punch and he got taken out. So, I mean, the dude got hit clean twice and he got knocked out both times. So it is a little concerning. I know Carl Robinson's a heavy hitter and he was able to withstand his attacks, but the dude is 1-3 in the UFC, and he's going up against Carl Roberson, Marcus Perez, Andrew Sanchez, and Bruno Silva. Those aren't like the biggest names. And he's 25, so you wouldn't think his chin would be an issue. So it's a little concerning that he's already getting, back-to-back knockouts. It is very, very concerning, especially because that's Sam Alvey's game. Smiling Sam is not good on the mat whatsoever. He has pretty good takedown defense, but he'll never try to take you down. He's a striker. He is very low volume. That part I don't like about Sam. He's also 35, not a fan of that. He has a tough time making 185, not a fan of that. But he's pretty precise with the striking, even though it's low volume. He's very precise, and he hits with authority. This dude has some just natural power. I know you look at his record, and that's the only reason he's the dog in this circumstance, because he has not won his last 6 fights. Now, I'll be honest with you, the Jimmy Crute loss. Okay, so we'll start with the mini nog. Not the greatest loss, in all honesty, especially getting knocked out. Jimmy Crute is a stud, so there's no shame there. Hinton Abreu, questionable loss. Ryan Spann, I thought he won, and the judges gave it to the wrong guy. Dan Jung was a split decision, and I thought that he got robbed. That was a robbery. That was not a draw. They gave Jung a 10-8 just because they wanted to protect the prospect. And then Julian Marquez is good. He went to war and he got messed up. So, I mean, in all honesty, instead of being 0-6, he probably should be at least 2-4 in those. And then his other losses are to decent people. So I don't think he's completely washed. His cardio is okay. He slows, but so does Turman, so that's going to cancel. Alvey's pretty hittable, but Turman doesn't have a lot of striking, so that's going to cancel. So it really comes down to is you look at LV's losses. He lost by submission to Julian Marquez. A lot of decisions, got knocked out again. A lot of decisions, punches. Yeah. I mean, a lot of his losses are just via decision or knockout, so he's pretty durable. So it's just a matter of, is Wellington to be able to take him down and ground and pound him or submit him? Or is Smiling Sam going to be able to keep it on the feet and all it takes is one shot with that natural power to take out Turman's chin? So I don't really want to pick a side. If I had to, I would definitely bet the LV side because his takedown defense is pretty legit. So the bet would be under. That way I can cover both sides, whether it's a Turman submission or an LV knockout. The under would cover both. However, Smiling Sam is plus money. So if he stays plus money, that's probably going to be one of the best dogs on the card, in all honesty. So the bet is either going to be the under if you want to keep it safe, under 2.5, or if you want plus money, you can bet Sam. I agree with both of those. All right. Next fight of the night is an unfortunate one. We have Abdul Razak Al Hassan against Alicio Di Chirico. We'll start with Abdul. He's a plus 185 dog. Di Chirico at minus 245 favorite. Over 2.5 is minus 110. Under 2.5 is minus 120. Abdul. I mean, it's just his story is unfortunate. People that unfortunately said that he did committed some crimes that he did not. He was behind bars for 2 years, and then they found that he was actually innocent. But he lost his prime years of his career, and he has not looked the same as he came back. He got beat by Manur Lazez, and I think Lazez is a little overrated in all honesty. Chaos Williams stiffened him in 30 seconds. That was questionable. And then Jacob Malkoon, who's only in the UFC because he trains with Robert Whitaker, decisioned him and dominated him. I don't like this whatsoever. He's definitely lost a step or two or three or four. When you look at Abdul, you're looking at one thing: his striking. He has good striking. He can fight off I couldn't even say good. He has okay striking. He just has an obscene amount of power. The thing is, that was at welterweight. He has not looked the same at middleweight whatsoever. I just know he's struggling to make the weight. So he went up to 185 to fight Jacob Malkoon and lost. So that was a little concerning. His wrestling's very questionable, but that's only because he gets gassed. It's fine to start in the first round, but if you make it out the first round with him, he is not the same fighter. He is a pressure fighter that's boom or bust. He's going to take you out or he's going to gas and you're going to dominate him. And Alessio is the absolute worst scenario for him. The UFC really wanted to give Abdul a win. They gave him a very winnable fight back to back, but unfortunately, NATO had to cancel twice. Di Chirico had a fight scheduled and his opponent backed out. So they said, hey, both of you have fights coming up. Do you want to just fight each other? They both agreed. So now Abdul has a lot harder matchup here. Who was Di Chirico supposed to fight? Chiziev. So, I mean, at this, and Roman Deletes, I forgot about that. So, I mean, at this juncture, Di Chirico is also someone that went through a little bit of a rough patch, losing to Zach Cummings. That's not a good look. Magomed Muradov is pretty good. We'll talk about him in a little. Kevin Holland, that's an okay loss to have. Beating Julian Marquez is a good win to have. And then that win over Joaquin Buckley. I think Buckley's very, very, very overrated. I don't think he's good at all. But again, he had a lot of hype behind him at that time. So that he just took his rub and took his name. So good for Di Chirico. He's very, very durable. He's the definition of a generalist. He has good striking, but it's not great. He is good wrestling. It's not great. He is okay jiu-jitsu. It's not the best. That's probably the weakest part. His cardio is good and he's durable. He's just your overall generalist. And the major thing on there is the fact that he's durable. He's never been knocked out. So at that juncture, that is not a good look for Abdul, who is knockout or bust. And that's why the line is the way it is. I mean, the pick is definitely Jericho. When it comes to betting, I would say you could probably take the over in all honesty. Abdul has sneaky good like submission defense. So I could definitely see him making it at least 2.5 rounds. If you want to take the Jericho and parlay him, I have no problem with you doing so. If you want to bet this fight straight up, I'd probably get a little more value and just take the over 2.5. That's probably what I would bet. I'm not running there to bet it right now, but if I'm already up in the night, I might go ahead and take a shot. If the Smiling Sam and Pat Sabatini are dogs, both of those hit, I might go ahead and take a shot on the over and see what happens there. No loss. All right. So next fight of the night, we have GM3 Gerald Meerschaert going up against Magomed Muradov. We have GM3. Oh goodness gracious, as a plus 425 dog. Muradov at minus 700 currently. Over 1.5 is minus 130. Under 1.5 is even money. We'll start with GM3 because there's not a lot to say here. His stand-up game is god awful. He's very hittable. His chin seems to be leaving him at a very, very rapid pace. He's getting knocked out by welterweights in 30 seconds. Not even what he threw. I know Chiviev is a different breed, but he did knock him out with literally one punch in 17 seconds. Good Lord. Got knocked out by Ian Heinisch, who is not a knockout artist either. And that was in the first round. It took a minute there. His last one was against Bartos. And Bartos was custom made for him. He's someone that only wrestles and always puts his head in harm's way. And Gerald just snatched up that guillotine, was just waiting for it. And sure enough, Bartos put his head right there for it. Good on GM3 to recognize that. Duran Wynn was whooping his ass. And then Duran kind of gassed out with all the wrestling. And then he was able to capitalize and choke him out. Same thing with Trevin Giles. He was whooping Gerald's ass. He gassed out. And then Gerald was able to capitalize with the guillotine as he put his head there. The problem is all of these submission wins are his opponents wrestling him. He's not the greatest offensive wrestler. So that means he's going to be forced to stand if you have any sort of takedown defense. Muradov, who is the only MMA fighter on the Mayweather money team, they love this guy, and for whatever reason, that he's a part of their team, even though he's an MMA. He has 100% takedown defense currently. He's also on like a 21 fight winning streak or something crazy like that. Like this dude has caught fire, and he doesn't slow down whatsoever. So Gerald doesn't have that to his advantage. He has phenomenal striking. It's very, very good. Probably top 10 in the division. He has pretty good cardio. He can fight going forward or backward. So it doesn't matter if Gerald tries to pressure or if Gerald tries to strike it. It doesn't matter what. He's going to be comfortable on the feet. His jiu-jitsu is questionable, but he has really, really high volume in regards to his just overall stand-up attack. So at that juncture, I understand why he's a favorite. Minus 700 is a little ridiculous considering Gerald is the most submission wins in the division. He can always snatch something up. However, Muradov isn't stupid, and he's going to make sure that Gerald, who is not a good wrestler, all he has to do is keep the 100% takedown defense, and he's going to tear Gerald up on the feet. So the problem is he doesn't have a lot of early knockouts. You look at his wins. Andrew Sanchez was in the third round by knockout. Trevor Smith was in the third round by knockout. Jericho was a decision. Wendell Oliveira, we're going pre-UFC now, was in the second round by knockout. Round 3 by knockout. He's someone that loves knocking you out in the second and third round. So then you're kind of playing with fire here with the over-under. Because the over is set at 1.5. So Gerald is getting knocked out in under a minute by people that aren't the biggest power punchers. And then you have Muradov that predominantly knocks you out in the second or third round. It kind of conflicts. That's a 50-50 roll of the dice with Gerald's chin. So what I would do is pick Muradov for sure. Not even a question. I would probably just bet him inside the distance. I still think it's like minus 300, minus 250 or something crazy like that, but at least it's a little better value than minus 700. So I would just take Merritt off by knockout if you're going to bet it and call it a day. Otherwise, minus 700 is just way too much. It's not even worth your time. All right. Speaking of really, really big favorites, next fight of the night, we have Andre Petrowski going up against Michael Gilmore. Andre is a minus 600 favorite. Michael Gilmore at plus 375. Over 1.5 again at plus 110. Under 1.5 is minus 140. We'll start with Andre. He's the guy that they thought was going to win the Ultimate Fighter this season. He is really, really good wrestling. He's really good on the ground. His striking, very questionable. He hits hard, but not a lot of technique, and it's a lot of just one or dones. And his cardio is his biggest concern. I mean, you look at his wins and losses here. The one on the show in the Ultimate Fighter, he did gas out and then he got choked out pretty easily there by Battle. But outside of that, his only other loss, he was dominating and then he got tired and then he got ground and pounded. All of his wins, second round finish, first round finish, first round finish. So, I mean, and first round finish. So all he does is get finished early or finish early and or get finished in the second or third because he gasses out. He's just a big dude and he just can't handle the weight appropriately. So you look over and you go, well, it really comes down to, is the person he's fighting durable enough to drag him into deep waters where they can get the win? And with Michael Gilmore, I'm going to say the answer is no. He has pretty good striking. I think he has like a karate background. So striking's good. He's hard to hit. And he'll hit you a lot. The problem is his wrestling is god awful. So that is a terrible quality to have against someone that only wrestles. And his Brazilian jiu-jitsu. In the show, he got taken down and tapped out pretty easily by Gilbert Albina. And Gilbert is a natural welterweight. Then you look at his other career losses. Triangle choke, he got submitted. Standing guillotine, he got submitted. And then Ricky Miller just says choke. So he got submitted. So he has 3 losses, 4 if you include the Ultimate Fighter, all 4 by submission. He's fighting a wrestler who likes to submit you. So that's why the odds are at minus 600. Without a doubt, I'm choosing Andre to win the fight, even though I'm not a big fan of Andre in all honesty, but you have to put your bias aside. He's going to win the fight. It's just a matter of how and when. I would say the under is probably going to be the route to go, but it's minus 140. So you also could do Andre inside the distance. Don't do Andre by knockout. Don't do Andre by submission. Because I don't know if it's going to be a ground and pound or if it's going to be a submission. Either way, he's probably going to win on top. It's just a matter of how he does it. So I'll just take Andre inside the distance. In all honesty, stay away from the time frame in which he does it. Just Andre inside the distance would be the bet. Otherwise, next fight of the night is probably the biggest talent-wise fight and the fight that most people are going to be looking forward to. We have D-Rob as a plus 125 dog, making a quick turnaround against Kevin Lee, making his long-awaited return, minus 155 favorite. Over 2.5 is minus 140. Under 2.5 is plus 110. We will start with D-Rob because we have some hot takes here. D-Rob is someone I like. I think D-Rob is very good. I think he's a dark horse in the division. But watching the tape on D-Rob, I noticed a few things. I think he is really, really good striking. His hands are phenomenal. His takedown defense is questionable. It is a little more questionable than the stats would tell you because Mike Perry took him down pretty easily. First round, only problem is he gassed and then D-Rob just tore him up. He is really underrated jiu-jitsu. My only thing with that is predominantly, I mean, you look at these guys, usually it's good on top. I don't know what D-Rob looks like from bottom, even his wins, like standing guillotines, all that stuff is on top. It's not him rear naked choke. I don't see any sort of triangles or arm bars listed on here. Arm triangle also on top. I don't know if he has a ton of submissions off his back. His takedown defense is good, and his cardio is really good. He's a little slow, in all honesty. Watching the film, he's not too fast. Kevin Lee will have a significant speed advantage. However, my main concern with D-Rob is his record. Yes, he lost a split early on. Shit happens. Don't fault him for that. The Nicholas Dalby loss, that was not a loss. I don't know what the judges were smoking that day, so don't worry about that. That wasn't a loss. Otherwise, his wins. I mean, Preston Parsons, his biggest win is what? Mike Perry? Dwight Grant, that kind of a win. Gosh, that's my major problem with him. Tim Means, I mean, he's beating Gabe Green. These guys are okay. They have a name, but they're not a big name. He's not fighting anyone that's going to test him, put him on his back, and just ground and pound him. And that's all Kevin Lee does. My major concern is that we have another Kevin Holland on our hands. When it comes to fights during the pandemic, we've seen D Rob one, two, three, 4 times. This is going to be his 5th time in the pandemic era. And I think we're starting to think of him as a top contender, and justifiably so, because he is. My problem is Kevin Holland went on a run just destroying real low level competition. We saw him every week taking short notice fights, and then we kind of bought the dip. D-Rob might be the same thing. He might be the welterweight version of Kevin Holland. And Kevin Holland's been getting exposed when he's been getting bigger names. Now we have D-Rob, who's known, who we don't know what he's going to do off of his back. And we know Kevin Lee is going to take him down. Kevin Lee is good striking. Kevin Lee is phenomenal wrestling. Kevin Lee's jiu-jitsu is good enough. It's not great, but it's fine. He knows what's going on down there. He goes forward, so he's going to pressure D-Rob. He is coming off a long layoff, a lot of leg injuries. I don't like that at all. He is going up to welterweight. Not a fan of him at welterweight. He's one of these guys that would benefit from like a 160 weight class. He's just too big for 55, and he's too little for welterweight, unfortunately. But I mean, besides his size disadvantage, again, he's going to have a significant speed advantage. And if he takes him down and can hold D-Rob down, I know Kevin Lee gasses, but Kevin Lee is lost to Charles Oliveira, the current champ, RDA, former champ, L.I. and Quinta was good, Tony Ferguson, former interim champ, Leonardo Santos, not the greatest loss, L.A. Quinta is just his killer. Otherwise, those are his losses. He's just losing to champions. And in all honesty, he looked good against Oliveira before he got choked out. He just gassed out. RDA, he looked good. He just got gassed out. Even he beat Edson Barboza. That's a good win, and that was in round 5. Chiesa, that's a great win, going in and choking out Chiesa. I mean, gosh, you're looking at his record here. He's fighting the who's who, and he's winning. So, I mean, at that juncture, as crazy as it sounds, I love D-Rob, even coming off injury and a long layoff. I'm going to take Kevin Lee as the pick. And D-Rob, if it was more than plus 125, I would say I'd probably bet him. But minus 155 on Kevin Lee feels like a steal. So I'll say pick Lee, and I'm going to bet Lee as well. I need to see D-Rob beat an actual fighter. I just need to see it before I can start pulling the trigger on him. Unfortunately, I love D-Rob now, but I'm scared he could be a Kevin Holland. All right. Then the next fight of the night, we have Ricky Turcios. So this is the Ultimate Fighter finale portion here. You forget that it's a Ultimate Fighter finale. It kind of sucks that they're just throwing it on a UFC 35 card, but it is what it is. We have Ricky Turcios as a minus 165 favorite going up against Brady Heiston, plus 130. Over 2.5 is minus 182. Under 2.5 plus 147. We'll start with Ricky. Ricky's one of these guys that the UFC thought could win the show, in all honesty. He was scouted by the UFC for a while, took some L's. They told him to get some win on the regional scenes and come back. He's fighting out of Team Alpha Male, so a decent camp here. That's why they had their eye on him. He's 10-2. I mean, his losses are to Mana, who I just talked about, who I love. Mana, that dude is underrated. But again, it's a UFC caliber fighter. Then he lost to Boston Salmon on the Contender Series, who was in the UFC. So his only 2 losses are people in the UFC. Otherwise, he's pretty well-rounded. I mean, he has good striking, just a lot of cardio, a lot of volume. His Brazilian jiu-jitsu is pretty good. He can hold his own down there. His wrestling is questionable, mainly because he can take you down. If he really wants to. He'd prefer to stand and bang. But his takedown defense is a little questionable. So, I mean, even though he has great striking, great jiu-jitsu, I don't want him to get comfortable on his back especially with his takedown defense being the way it is. Brady will want to take him down. I think Brady will have the ability to take him down because Brady, we saw on the show, he's a damn good wrestler, man. This kid, crazy enough. I mean, you look at Ricky as a prospect being 27. Brady is 22 years old. And I'm telling you right now, 22 in the UFC is insane. This dude's a prodigy, man. He's great wrestling. He's really good at jujitsu, holding his own, even on the show, beating veterans like Vince Murdoch. Oh God, the guy he used to train with in Washington. His first fight, Josh Rettinghouse, was pretty good. One of the guys I expected to be in the finals. He's just a dog, man. The problem I have with Brady is his stand-up is a little non-existent. He has this nasty head kick, and that's all he has. He has a jab and a head kick on the feet. That's literally all he has to offer. And then he gasses, and that's concerning at 135. He's gassing in 2-round fights on the Ultimate Fighter. Luckily, he has such good wrestling that he can take you down and kind of catch a second win while he's down there a little bit, just control you. But all he has to do is win 2 rounds. Then I looked at his record, and this is my biggest concern. Good Lord, is he the definition of a can crusher? Please look at his wins. He lost to a guy that was 9-5. He had a winning record and he lost. He got knocked out in the 3rd round, probably because he gassed out, and then the guy took advantage. Let's look at his wins. His first win, he was 0-0. He fought Philip Driver, who was 0-2, losing record. His next fight, he was 1-0. He fought a debuting fighter, not a winning record. His 3rd fight, he fought this Jesse guy, 0-4, losing record. He fought Jeff Coleman, 0-6, losing record. He lost his fight, and then before getting into the Ultimate Fighter, he beat a Shane Sargent, who was 1-12, losing record. So he's never gotten a win over someone with a positive record. And that's a little concerning, especially Ricky's 1-2. So I think Brady has the style to beat Ricky. Ricky has the experience and the experience to beat Brady. So it's a tough fight, man. Gun to my head, I would say Ricky wins. However, betting it, I don't know if I fully trust it because all Brady has to do is win 10 minutes. Wrestle for 10 minutes and then just survive. So the bet is either dog or pass with Brady, in all honesty, or you can take the over. I think the over will hit. Brady is at least a little durable, at least to hit the over 2.5. So the bet's going to be the over, and or if you're feeling yourself, you can take the dog and Brady, but just his style is the style you need to beat Ricky. And I think Ricky is the better fighter. I think if they fought 10 times, Ricky probably wins like 6 or 7, and that's just not enough for me to pull the trigger. So the bet's going to be either dog or pass or the over. Then we go on to our co-main event. We have Gilbert Urbina going up against Brian Battle. Brian Battle, the -165 favorite. Gilbert +130. Over 2.5 is -145. Under 2.5 +115. We'll start with Brian. I think Brian, we're getting at a discount here at -165. He's also the definition of a generalist. They need to give him a new picture on Tapology. It makes him look like a child here. Does not look like that anymore. He has good striking. We saw it on the show. He utilized it. He has good jiu-jitsu. We saw it on the show. He utilized it against oh gosh, what's his name? The guy earlier, Andre. His wrestling, we saw he can get taken down a little bit, but he pops right back up and he has good submission defense. So he's very fine there. He's just literally the definition of a generalist. And he's getting experience. I mean, he just turned pro 2 years ago. He literally turned pro 2 years ago. So you see him improving each and every fight. He's getting better and better. He's only 26 years old. He's going to be a real thing in the middleweight division. 4 or 5 years down the road, I could even see him being top 10. This dude is very good. I like the way that he fights. He has no weaknesses whatsoever. His cardio checks out as well. Then we go over to Gilbert, who's only here because Trayshawn got hurt, unfortunately. We know they're going to let Trayshawn in the UFC. That was a dude that everyone thought was going to win. Probably would have been the favorite over Battle. However, Gilbert's here now, the guy that Trayshawn knocked out, and that's a concern because Gilbert, even in his press conference for the fight, said anyone at middleweight or welterweight can get it because he is a welterweight. I mean, his only professional loss on here is to Sean Brady, who's at welterweight. I mean, he fights a lot at welterweight. I know he had his brothers, so he's been fighting since he was 18. So he has a lot of experience here. The only problem being, I mean, his chin is a little questionable from what I saw. I mean, it's one thing to get hit by Trayshawn, who hits like a truck. So I totally understand getting dropped. But he's getting dropped by jabs. And that's very, very concerning. And I think a lot of that is because he is a welterweight. Battle's a pretty big middleweight. His Urbina striking's okay. His wrestling's okay, and his jiu-jitsu's pretty good. So they are the same fighter. Only difference being one may have chin issues and is a welterweight, and the other one is just a learning middleweight. So at this day and age, I will take the guy that's in the correct weight class. So I'll take Battle by gosh, he might finish him. He's been finishing everyone left and right. I'll take the pick is going to be Battle, and the bet is going to be Brian Battle as well. And then that's going to take us to the main event. And there's not going to be a lot to say about the main event, in all honesty. We have Edson Barboza minus 125 going up against Giga Chikadze at minus 105. Over set at 4.5, plus 115 to the over. On their 4.5 is minus 145. We'll start with Edson. Edson is someone who has fought a murderer's row. He's fought Habib. He's fought Gaethje. These are at lightweight. He dropped down to featherweight. Is going on a run here. He's like, they said it perfectly. Clint said it, Diehard MMA, shout out. He said that he kind of reminds him of Jose Aldo on the scale, where he's older, but he's mastered the weight cut. He looks like absolute death on the scale the day before, and then fills out and performs just fine fight day. It doesn't make a lot of sense how he does it. But he did have that split decision loss to Dan Ige at featherweight. That was questionable. It's when I actually thought he won. But outside of that, the dude hasn't lost. So he has one questionable loss at featherweight and then two good wins. McQuan, it's good, man. That's a good win. Shane Burgos, really good. That's a good win via knockout. And he dominated those fights. So we all know he has great stand-up. He has a ton of experience. His wrestling leaves a little to be desired. His Brazilian jiu-jitsu leaves a little to be desired. But they're both there. I mean, they're okay. But he's predominantly just a stand-up fighter. But he's fought the who's who. He's been around forever. Then you look over at his opponent, and you're kind of looking at a carbon copy of him. Only difference being Giga, being 13-2, has not had the same experience level, nor has he fought the same competition. I mean, he's only 2 years younger at 33. I know he's a pretty prolific kickboxer as well. He predominantly stands not the greatest wrestling, not the greatest jiu-jitsu. So, you know, in those aspects, I do give Edson the advantage, but I don't think he's going to put on a singlet or, you know, strap on a black belt and go to town. I think it's going to be a predominantly just stand-up war. Wins over Cub Swanson's okay, but he's kind of aging. Jamie Simmons was thrown to the wolves. Omar Morales, I actually think, is a good win. Omar just fought a really bad game plan. Irwin is a 35-pounder who's currently in jail for murder. Jamal Emmers is a good win, but I thought that Emmers won, so that was a questionable loss or a questionable win for him. Brandon Davies, another split decision. So what I'm seeing a lot is just decision. And then he gets a can and he wins. So he's pretty durable himself, in all honesty. I mean, he has 2 losses. He got choked out. Again, Austin Springer is not the greatest. So the fact that he got choked out by Austin Springer says enough about his jiu-jitsu game. And then he lost a decision. So overall, he's pretty durable. These guys, again, it's going to be a great striking match. It's going to be fun to watch. I would definitely give the advantage to Edson just off of experience. I would bet Edson, but I kind of like the over being plus money. I know Giga has that body kick, the Giga kick into the liver that took Swanson out. It hurts a lot of people. It kind of just shuts down your senses. That kick does concern me considering how much Edson is cutting and how his body's going to react. However, as long as he can get past that, I don't see Giga finishing Edson. And Giga's never been knocked out, so I think it's going to be tough for Edson to finish him. So I kind of like the over. So the pick is going to be Edson, but the bet, I'm just going to take the plus money at over 4.5. Otherwise, that's UFC Vegas 35. Again, I'm going to post the fights after the weigh-ins. I need to see the weigh-ins first. Otherwise, again, you can follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram at Stats and Stacks. And I will put I'll put the links in the description. Otherwise, I feel real good about these cards. I feel real good about this fight, and I hope that we're able to go ahead, turn around, and just hit on everything and make a lot of money. A pretty favorite dominant card, but we do have 3 dogs that we're looking at, and I'll probably take a shot on all 3. See if we get some plus money, some glory plays. Otherwise, it should be a productive night, and we look forward to making money with you. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.